This 4-year-old beggar girl impresses Arab millionaire by speaking 10 languages, but when they discover the real reason she speaks so many languages fluently and so young, they are shocked. Please comment giving a rating from 0 to 10 for my story. Your opinion is very important. And subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The community center in Harmony Creek, Ohio, buzzed with the typical bustle of a charity event when Yasmin Silva, just 4 years old, emerged between the legs of adults like a fragile ghost. Her large, expressive eyes contrasted with her small body, which looked more like that of a 2-year-old, and she observed everything around her with an intensity unsettling for someone so young. Gleucina Silva, her 28-year-old mother, frantically wiped down the buffet tables, her mechanical movements revealing her 6 years of experience as a cleaner at the center. Sweat trickled down her forehead despite the air conditioning, and she cast worried glances at her daughter every few minutes. There was something in the air that afternoon that made her uneasy, a feeling that something was about to change forever. Khalil al-Rashid, a 30-year-old man with looks reminiscent of a Hollywood heartthrob, adjusted his Italian suit as he surveyed the modest surroundings. His dark, penetrating eyes scanned the hall with the polite disinterest of someone accustomed to far more sophisticated environments. He had come to the United States to expand his educational technology business, and his presence at this event was merely a mandatory social courtesy recommended by his local advisors. Khalil's wealth, built through astute investments in international stock market shares and strategic cryptocurrency ventures, placed him among the wealthiest men of his generation in the Middle East. However, all this wealth had not filled the void he had felt since childhood, the constant feeling of being out of place in the world around him. It was then that Yasmin approached him, her footsteps silent on the linoleum floor. Khalil was speaking in Arabic on his cell phone with a partner in Dubai when he felt a soft touch on his leg. He looked down and saw the girl watching him with an intense curiosity that disconcerted him. "Excuse me, sir," Yasmin said in a soft but surprisingly articulate voice for her age. "You were talking about problems with electronic equipment suppliers, weren't you?" Khalil paused the call, frowning. The girl had spoken in English, but there was something about the way she looked at him that intrigued him. "How do you know that, little one?" he asked, crouching down to her height. "I understood what you said on the phone," Yasmin replied simply. "You said in Arabic that the suppliers in Shanghai have been delaying deliveries for 3 weeks. Khalil's blood ran cold. He had spoken exactly about that in Arabic, a language that surely no 4-year-old American child could know. It must be a coincidence, he thought, trying to rationalize the impossible. "Do you speak Arabic?" he asked skeptically. "Yes," said Yasmin, and then began to speak in the language with a fluency that left Khalil completely speechless. "My name is Yasmin, and I am 4 years old. Your business worries are making you lose sleep. I can see it in your eyes." Khalil felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. The girl not only spoke Arabic, but she did so with a perfection that rivaled adult natives. His eyes widened as she continued, smoothly switching to French. "Vous semblez surpris, monsieur. Je peux parler dans d'autres langues aussi." Before he could react, Yasmin switched to Spanish, then Italian, German, Russian, Mandarin, Japanese and Hindi, alternating between the languages as if she were simply changing television channels. Each word was pronounced with impressive technical precision, each language fluid and natural. On the other side of the hall, Gleucina dropped the tray she was carrying when she heard her daughter's voice echoing in languages she couldn't even identify. The sound of metal hitting the floor attracted the attention of several people, but she didn't even notice. Her eyes were fixed on Yasmin, who was chatting animatedly with the elegant man in languages that seemed to come straight out of foreign films. "This is impossible," Gleucina murmured, approaching slowly. "Yasmin, what are you doing?" The girl turned to her mother with an innocent smile. I'm talking to Mr. Khalil, Mommy. He's worried about his business. Khalil looked at Clusina, then at Yasmin, trying to process what he had just witnessed. His mind, trained for complex market analysis and investment strategies, struggled to find a logical explanation for that extraordinary display. "Your daughter," he said slowly to Clusina, "does she really speak all these languages?" Clusina shook her head, confused and frightened. I didn't know she knew how to speak these things. Yasmin, where did you learn this?" "I've always known," replied the girl with the unsettling simplicity of children. "People talk, and I understand. Then I learned to talk too." At that moment, other people began to gather around them, attracted by the unusual conversation. Yasmin, noticing the attention, became visibly uncomfortable and hid behind her mother's legs. Khalil observed the girl's reaction and recognized something familiar in that gesture. He himself had spent his childhood feeling different, isolated by his ability to memorize and process information much faster than his peers. But he had never seen anything like that. "Clusina," he said softly, "we need to talk. Your daughter possesses something very special, something that can change both of your lives." Clusina squeezed Yasmin's shoulders protectively, a mixture of pride and terror taking over her heart. She had spent 4 years caring for that fragile child, constantly worrying about her health and development, never suspecting that she held such an extraordinary secret. As the murmur grew around them, Yasmin looked up at Khalil and said in Arabic, her voice almost a whisper, "You also feel lonely sometimes, don't you, Mr. Khalil?" The question hit Khalil like a punch to the chest, revealing a truth he had hidden from himself for years. At that moment, looking at that impossible child, he knew that his life had just taken a completely unexpected turn. 3 weeks had passed since the event at the community center, and Clusina couldn't get the conversation with Khalil out of her head. The businessman had left his card, asking her to get in touch, but pride prevented her from making that call. How could a cleaner relate to a man who possessed a fortune in dollars she couldn't even imagine? Yasmin remained the same fragile child as always, playing silently in the small 2-room apartment they shared in downtown. But now, Clusina watched her daughter's every gesture with new eyes, paying attention to details that had previously gone unnoticed. The girl had a habit of murmuring to herself while drawing, and only now did her mother realize that those murmurs were in different languages. On Thursday morning, while preparing breakfast with the few resources her salary allowed, Clusina finally mustered the courage to ask a question that tormented her. "Yasmin, my daughter, tell me something. How did you learn to speak all those languages?" The girl stopped coloring her drawing and looked up with her big, expressive eyes. "Do you remember when I was hospitalized, Mommy? When I was younger?" Clusina felt a pang in her chest. How could she forget? At the age of 2, Yasmin had suffered a severe fall that resulted in a traumatic brain injury. Doctors said she had developed a rare neurological condition that could affect her growth and cognitive development. For months, they lived between medical appointments and hospital stays. "Of course I remember, my little one. Why?" "There were many different people in the hospital. Doctors from other countries, nurses, visitors speaking strange languages," explained Yasmin with the unsettling serenity that always characterized her. "I kept listening to them talking. It was like music, you know. And I began to understand the words, how they fit together." Clusina sat down heavily on the kitchen chair. Throughout that difficult period, she was so focused on her daughter's physical recovery that she never paid attention to what else she might be absorbing. Working double shifts to pay for treatments that insurance didn't cover, she came home too exhausted to notice the extraordinary signs that Yasmin was giving. "But daughter, it's one thing to understand, another to speak so well." "I practiced alone in the room," Yasmin said simply. "When you went to work, I kept repeating the conversations I had heard. It was fun." At that moment, Clusina's phone rang. It was an unknown number, but she answered it anyway. "Hello, Clusinia. This is Khalil al-Rashid. We met at the charity event." Clusinia's heart raced. "Yes, I remember. Listen, I have a proposition for you. I would like to take Yasmin for some specialized medical examinations. I know professionals who work with gifted children, and I believe your daughter needs a proper evaluation." Clusinia hesitated. Her first reaction was to refuse. She wasn't used to receiving help, especially from rich men who might have ulterior motives. "It's not necessary, Mr. Khalil. Yasmin is fine, thank you." "Clusinia, please listen to me. Yasmin is not just an intelligent child. What she demonstrated goes far beyond that. She may have a neurological condition that is causing these extraordinary abilities, but it may also be putting her health at risk." The word risk made Clusinia's blood run cold. "What do you mean, risk?" "Extreme giftedness sometimes comes with other medical issues. Her brain may be functioning at an accelerated rate, which would explain both her genius and her physical appearance younger than her actual age." Clusinia looked at Yasmin, who continued to draw quietly, oblivious to the conversation that would define her future. The girl was indeed very small for her age, something that had always worried the pediatricians. "I don't have money for expensive exams," admitted Clusinia, her voice almost a whisper. "I'll take care of that," Khalil said immediately. "It's not charity, Clusinia. It's an investment. Yasmin may have answers that medicine hasn't yet discovered." While talking on the phone, Clusinia didn't notice that Yasmin had stopped drawing and was now watching her with a worried expression. The girl could feel the tension in her mother's voice, even without fully understanding what was being discussed. After much hesitation, Clusinia agreed to the exams. Khalil scheduled an appointment for the following week with Dr. Edward Mendez, a neurologist specializing in rare cases, in Pittsburgh. That night, after Yasmin fell asleep, Clusinia stayed awake, thinking about everything she had discovered. She felt guilty for never having noticed her daughter's extraordinary gift, but she was also terrified of the possibilities that Khalil had mentioned. What if there was something wrong? What if Yasmin's abilities were a symptom of a dangerous condition? 3 days later, in the waiting room of the office in Pittsburgh, Yasmin surprised again. A Japanese family was having difficulty communicating with the receptionist, and the girl, without anyone asking, got up from her chair and began to translate perfectly between Japanese and English. "Their daughter is the same age as me," Yasmin explained to the receptionist, "and they are worried because she's not talking yet." Khalil, who had insisted on accompanying them, watched the scene with a mixture of admiration and growing concern. There was something almost supernatural in the ease with which Yasmin moved between languages, as if her mind operated on a different frequency from most people. When they were finally called for the consultation, Dr. Mendez was initially skeptical. He had seen many cases of parents who exaggerated their children's abilities, but 5 minutes of conversation with Yasmin were enough for his expression to change completely. "This is extraordinary," he murmured to Khalil and Clusinia, while Yasmin played with some educational toys in the corner of the room. "In 40 years of medicine, I've never seen anything like it." "Is it dangerous, doctor?" asked Clusinia, wringing her hands nervously. Dr. Mendez was silent for a long moment. "We need more detailed exams, but there is a possibility I must mention. There is an extremely rare syndrome, documented in fewer than 50 cases worldwide, that drastically accelerates neural connections in very young children." "And what does that mean?" asked Khalil. "It means her brain is functioning at a much higher speed than normal. This explains the extraordinary language skills, the photographic memory, the ability to process complex information." Clusinia felt short of breath. "But is there a cure?" "It's not a disease, Clusinia. It's a condition." "But," Dr. Mendez hesitated, "there are side effects. The accelerated metabolism may be consuming vital energy disproportionately. That's why she looks younger and is physically fragile." Khalil clenched his fists. "Doctor, be direct with us. What are the risks? If not monitored properly, the condition may progress to a state where the brain demands more energy than the body can supply. In extreme cases." The doctor didn't need to finish the sentence. The silence that settled in the room was eloquent enough. At that moment, Yasmin approached them with a drawing in her hand. It was a colorful bird flying towards the sun. "I drew this for you, Mommy," she said in English, then repeated it in Arabic for Khalil and in Spanish for the doctor. "It means everything will be okay." Cleosina hugged her daughter, trying to hide the tears that sprang to her eyes, while a terrible question echoed in her mind. How much time would they have together? 2 weeks after the consultation with Dr. Mendez, Cleosina's life had turned into a nightmare of impossible decisions. The test results confirmed the doctor's worst fears. Yasmin had neural hyperactivation syndrome, a condition so rare that only fragmented records existed in worldwide medical literature. The girl was sitting on the floor of the apartment, organizing cards she had created from scraps of paper, each containing words in different languages. It was her way of playing, building linguistic bridges that no adult could fully understand. But now, every demonstration of her genius was also a painful reminder of the condition that consumed her vital energy. "Mommy," said Yasmin in Mandarin, then repeated in English, "Why are you always sad now?" Cleosina quickly wiped away the tears that insisted on welling up. How to explain to a 4-year-old child that her own extraordinary intelligence might be slowly killing her? "I'm not sad, my little one. I'm just thinking." Yasmin observed her with those large, penetrating eyes that seemed to see through adults' lies. "Are you thinking about what the doctor said about me getting tired?" Cleosina's heart broke. Even being so young, Yasmin had perfectly understood the medical implications discussed in the consultation. Her ability to process complex information was both a blessing and a curse. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Khalil, as had become routine in recent weeks. "Cleosina, I managed to contact a specialist in Zurich. Dr. Hoffman has experience with cases similar to Yasmin's. He can see her next week." "Khalil, I've already said I can't accept any more help," Cleosina replied, her voice weary. "You've already paid for the exams here. I have no way to repay you." "It's not about repayment," Khalil insisted, frustration evident in his voice. "It's about saving Yasmin's life. Don't you understand? I have the resources. I have international contacts. I can mobilize the best specialists in the world." On the other end of the line, Khalil was in his temporary office in Pittsburgh, surrounded by financial reports that he couldn't concentrate on reading. His investments in Bitcoin had yielded millions in the past month, but all that money seemed insignificant in the face of the impossibility of using his fortune to save a 4-year-old child. "Why are you doing this?" Cleosina asked. "Why do you care so much about a girl who isn't even your family?" Khalil was silent for a moment. It was a question he had asked himself many times in recent weeks. "Because I recognize something in Yasmin. The same loneliness I've felt my whole life for being different from others, and because maybe, by saving her, I can find a purpose that all my wealth has never given me." The brutal honesty of the answer left Cleosina speechless. She could hear the vulnerability in his voice, a fragility that contrasted with the image of the successful businessman. "Khalil, I'm afraid," she admitted. "Afraid that you'll disappear from our lives when you get tired of playing hero. Afraid that Yasmin will get used to things that I'll never be able to give her. And I'm afraid of going back to Dubai and spending the rest of my life knowing that I could have saved an extraordinary child, but I let her mother's pride stop me," Khalil retorted firmly. The conversation was interrupted by Yasmin, who approached Cleosina with a worried expression. "Mummy, is Mr. Khalil talking about leaving?" Cleosina looked at her daughter, surprised. "How do you know?" "I heard him talking in Arabic on the phone about going home," Yasmin explained. "He's sad too, like you." At that moment, Cleosina realized that she had underestimated not only her daughter's intelligence, but also her ability to understand the emotions of the adults around her. Yasmin wasn't just a gifted child. She was a deeply sensitive human being who was absorbing all the suffering around her. "Khalil," Cleosina said on the phone, "Yasmin wants to talk to you." She passed the phone to the girl, who began to speak in Arabic with a fluency that still baffled Cleosina. "She told me not to leave," Khalil translated after a few minutes, "and asked if I also feel lonely sometimes. And what did you answer?" "The truth, that yes, and that meeting you two was the first time in years that I felt part of a family." Cleosina felt something break inside her chest. All the resistance, all the pride she had built as a barrier against vulnerability began to crumble. "All right," she said finally, "let's try this specialist in Switzerland." But the next day, a new twist shook all plans. Yasmin woke up with a high fever and difficulty breathing. At the local hospital, doctors were alarmed by the results of blood tests. "Her condition is progressing faster than we expected, doctor," Mendez explained to Cleosina and Khalil, who had come immediately from Pittsburgh. "The accelerated brain metabolism is beginning to affect other systems of the body." "What does that mean?" asked Cleosina, holding firmly the small hand of Yasmin, who slept connected to several machines. "It means we don't have time for international travel. I need to contact colleagues immediately to develop an experimental treatment protocol right here." Khalil pulled Dr. Mendez aside. "Doctor, be direct with me. How long does she have? If we can't stabilize the condition in the next few weeks, maybe a few months, but there is a possibility." "What?" "There is an experimental treatment being developed simultaneously at 3 medical centers in the world. One of them is in Los Angeles. It's risky, untested, but it may be her only chance." That night, while Yasmin slept in the hospital, Cleosina and Khalil kept a silent vigil. It was then that she noticed something extraordinary, even unconscious. Yasmin murmured words in different languages, as if her brain continued processing information even during sleep. "She's dreaming in different languages," Cleosina whispered. Khalil watched the girl for a long moment. "Cleosina, I want to make you a proposal. Let me finance not only the treatment, but also create a research center here in Ohio. A place where children like Yasmin can be studied and helped without having to leave their families." "Why? Why invest so much in something that might not work?" Khalil looked at his own hands, calloused by years of building his financial empire. "Because I discovered that all my wealth, all my investments in stocks and holdings are worthless if I can't use that money to save a life that really matters." But before Cleosina could answer, Yasmin opened her eyes and stared at them with unsettling clarity. "I heard you talking," she said in a mixture of English and Arabic, "and I want to say something important." Both approached the bed, paying full attention. "I'm not afraid of getting sick, but I'm afraid that you two will be sad because of me. Promise you'll stay friends, even if I don't get better." The innocent question of a 4-year-old child echoed through the room like a punch to the stomach of 2 adults who had spent weeks avoiding confronting the most terrible possibility of all. 6 months had passed since that night in the hospital, and Cleosina's small apartment had transformed into something unrecognizable. Portable medical equipment occupied a corner of the room, gifts from Khalil, who had insisted on creating a hospital environment at home so that Yasmin could receive treatment without leaving her mother. The experimental treatment from Los Angeles had been brought to Harmony Creek through a partnership that Khalil had established, using a considerable portion of his personal fortune. Dr. Mendez now coordinated a small medical team dedicated exclusively to Yasmin's case, but the results were still uncertain. "Mommy, today I want to try something different," said Yasmin, sitting in her special chair connected to the monitors that constantly tracked her vital signs. Despite all the treatment, she remained fragile, but there was something different in her eyes in recent weeks. a determination that wasn't there before. "What do you want to try, my little one?" asked Closinia, interrupting the reading of a medical report she had been trying to decipher for hours. "I want to talk to the doctors about what I feel inside here," said Yasmin, pointing to her head. "I don't think they understand exactly what happens to me." Closinia hesitated. The doctors had explained that it was important not to overwhelm Yasmin with complex medical information, but the girl had repeatedly demonstrated that she understood much more than any child her age should. That afternoon, when Dr. Mendes arrived for the routine consultation, Yasmin did something that left everyone perplexed. She began to describe her internal sensations using medical terms that no child would know, alternating between English, French, and German, a language she had absorbed by listening to conversations of European specialists who consulted the case remotely. "Doctor," said Yasmin, "when my brain gets too fast, I feel like there are many lights flashing here." She pointed to specific regions of her head with impressive precision. "And sometimes I can make the lights slow down if I breathe in a special way and repeat words in different languages." Dr. Mendes was speechless. "Yasmin, you are describing neurological self-regulation techniques that not all doctors know. How do you know how to do this?" "I don't know," she replied simply. "My brain teaches me." It was then that the discovery that would change everything happened. Dr. Mendes asked Yasmin to demonstrate her slowing down techniques while connected to the monitoring equipment. What they witnessed defied everything they knew about pediatric neurology. Yasmin could consciously regulate her own brain activity through a combination of controlled breathing and repetition of specific linguistic patterns. It was as if she had developed an intuitive way to control her own condition. "This is extraordinary," murmured Dr. Mendes, watching the graphs that showed Yasmin's neural activity stabilizing in real time. "She's doing something that would take years of specialized medical training to learn." Khalil, who had arrived from Pittsburgh to attend the consultation, watched everything with a mixture of admiration and growing hope. In recent weeks, he had faced enormous pressure from his family in the Middle East, who did not understand why he was wasting his wealth on an American child. "Khalil," his father had said in a tense call the previous week, "you have responsibilities to the family business. Your investments in bitcoins and stocks are being neglected because of this obsession." But watching Yasmin at that moment, demonstrating a control over her own neurological condition that even the best specialists could not explain, Khalil knew he had made the right choice. "Doctor," he said, "what does this mean for her prognosis?" "It means that Yasmin may be teaching us more about her condition than all of our studies combined," Dr. Mendes replied. "If we can document and understand her techniques, perhaps we can develop completely new treatment protocols." In the following weeks, something extraordinary began to happen. Yasmin, with her gift for languages, began to help other patients in the hospital who had communication difficulties. Families of immigrants, tourists in medical emergencies, all began to look for the girl who speaks all languages to help with translations. Closinia watched with a heavy and proud heart at the same time. Yasmin was using her gifts to help others, even fighting against her own condition. The girl had found a purpose that transcended her personal suffering. "Mommy," said Yasmin one afternoon, after helping an Italian family understand her grandfather's diagnosis, "I think my different brain isn't just for me." "What do you mean, my daughter?" "Maybe I get sick so I can help other people not get sick. As if my brain were a laboratory for doctors to learn new things." The maturity of that reflection left Closinia speechless. How could a 4-year-old child have such an understanding of purpose and sacrifice? It was then that the call came that would change everything definitively. Dr. Hoffman, The specialist from Zurich that Khalil had contacted months before had developed a treatment protocol based exactly on the observations they were making with Yasmin. The self-regulation techniques that your daughter has developed intuitively, explained Dr. Hoffman in a video conference, are the key to permanently stabilizing her condition. She doesn't need to come here. She has already found the cure herself. Clusinia collapsed in tears. Months of anguish, of fear of losing her daughter, of sleepless nights watching Yasmin's every breath, finally came to an end with a real hope of recovery. Khalil, who was present during the call, had a different reaction. He smiled, but not of relief, of recognition. "I knew it," he said softly. "From the first day, I knew that Yasmin was special in a way that goes beyond medicine." 6 months later, Yasmin was not only stable, but thriving in a way that no one had anticipated. The research center that Khalil had promised to create became a reality. The Yasmin Institute of Pediatric Neurology, located in Harmony Creek, Ohio. Cleosinia, who had left her job as a cleaner, now coordinated a support program for families of children with rare neurological conditions. Her experience as a mother, combined with what she learned during Yasmin's treatment, transformed her into a powerful advocate for other families facing similar journeys. Khalil had made the decision to establish permanent residency in the United States, transferring much of his business and investments to the country. His family in the Middle East finally understood his choice when he explained that he had found something that all his money had never bought. A real family. "Uncle Khalil," said Yasmin one sunny afternoon, playing in the garden of the institute that bore her name, "thank you for not giving up on me when I was sick." Khalil picked her up, still amazed at how much she had grown and strengthened. "Thank you, little one, for teaching me that true wealth is not in what we accumulate, but in what we give to the world." Yasmin smiled and said in Arabic, "And thank you for teaching me that family is not just who is born together, but who chooses to stay together." As the sun set over the Appalachian Mountains, 3 lives that had met by chance had transformed into a family built by choice, love, and the understanding that the greatest miracles often come in the smallest gestures of a heart that refuses to give up. If you enjoyed this wonderful story, please comment giving a rating from 0 to 10. Your opinion is very important. And if you love beautiful stories, subscribe to my channel. I promise to make your day better with my videos.